Hi. Good morning, good morning. So, we have a fun guest joining me today. She's here, and Fiona is going to be joining me. We're going to accept her. So, let's see if she can hop on.
Hi.
Hi, Fiona. How's it going?
Good. How are you today?
Great. So glad you could join me on here. This is the first of many I'm going to be doing called Creative Careers. So
Mm.
I'm going to be hosting these lives every Thursday and interviewing different friends and colleagues about their own creative career. So I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. And so the first question I want to ask is, what makes you feel your most creative?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's interesting because I love the work that you do and how you really inspire creativity through business, right? And for me, I've been thinking about this last few days after after we talked about doing this interview. I feel like the most creative thing for me is just freestyle dancing. Like I definitely love belly dancing. You know, um, I have been teaching belly dance for 19 years now, but there's something really special about just freestyle dancing. Like if you've ever done a static dance, it's just about being in your body and doing any weird thing that wants to move through you.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the best. I mean, that really does get to your like sacral center, that feminine flow. I mean, it really, I mean, I find it so wonderful too. And just music in general, like having that music can create so much creativity just because it makes you want to move?
Absolutely. And a lot of dancers, I've taught a lot of dance in my life. A lot of dancers focus on choreography, which is not a bad thing. But what I found is that when I let myself flow into just music that my body can move, I actually create really amazing choreography. But from that flow, it's not so much about, it being in my mind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's such great insight for any other creative practice, allowing it to just flow rather
Mm,
than getting so stuck in our head.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our brain has its own reality, but our body has its own reality too. And
Yeah.
it's so important to listen to the body and what it needs.
Yeah. So, speaking of, tell us what you do and kind of like what you're up to right now.
Yeah, so welcome everybody who's watching. So I'm Coach Fiona Rose, and I am an energy healer and intuitive, and also a spiritual coach and a belly dancer as well. And, I've been doing healing arts for the past almost 10 years now. And my focus is helping women turn their anxiety into bliss. And I've treated a variety of anxiety disorders throughout my career. I've helped people get off medication and heal their anxiety naturally. I've helped women heal their traumas. And I'm really just passionate about working with the energy of bliss, which I believe is our natural state and it's our natural birthright that we get to reclaim and live, So yeah, that's what I do. I do a lot of one-on-one healings. I teach classes, I do group programs, and I've also certified healers such as yourself in my programs to do what I do. So yeah, I really love this work.
Yeah, and it's so powerful too. I've done some healing sessions with you, some one-on-one healing sessions, and the way that you're able to tap in and hold space and help others transform that energy is so powerful. Like it's very profound work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been so lucky to take your healer training course, which I have applied bits and pieces of it to my own career coaching business.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you know, it's such a gift to have that, to cultivate that intuition and the energy healing work. So how did you get into that?
Yeah, great question. So let's see. I mean, for those of you that have had spiritual awakenings, you know what I'm talking about when it can be a really hard experience. It can be really crazy to have a spiritual awakening. I had my first spiritual awakening when I was around 18, 19, and it was really scary because I realized I had a capacity to communicate with the other side. So part of the work that I do is I also communicate with spirits, entities, and I clear a lot of them. And I've actually helped a lot of animals cross over to the other side as well. And so I've always had this capacity, but I just didn't know how to use it. So it wasn't until I had my first, like, quote unquote, mental breakdown when I was like 18, 19, that turned into a spiritual awakening that I was like, wow, I really have something here that I need to learn to work with. And I actually ended up dropping out of college my third year because I just knew like the main path wasn't for me and that I
What were you
had to.
studying?
I was studying psychology and sociology, which I thought was great, but I just knew in my heart I didn't want to become a psychologist. I wanted to be a healer. And so it was really healing myself that brought me to where I am today. You know, I suffered with a lot of depression and anxiety simply because I didn't understand my gifts. Like, I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand what was really going on, and I had unresolved trauma. And so it really was like, okay, Fiona, you got to do whatever it takes to heal yourself. And, you know, it took I would say, a good 10 years of learning all the skills and um, getting to the place where I'm at now, where I live my bliss and I do what I love every day, you know, and I don't suffer with depression and anxiety like I did. I still have stress, but I do not have depression and anxiety because I've healed the roots of that, you know, and so anxiety can be really scary and it's a very common thing in our society. And I just really passionate about helping people get out of that space, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've struggled with anxiety a lot in my own life. And I used to be a drug addict and an alcoholic, and, I had other addictions too, and
Yeah.
compulsions because of that anxiety, because of that underlying anxiety, not knowing how to transform it and let it go and move that stuck, crazy, intense feeling that,
Mm,
can turn into panic and is so, like, so terrifying. It's so debilitating. And,
mm,
just having the fear of it happening can be
mm,
really, paralyzing. And so I think it's so important, the work that you're doing, because yes, we have these pharmaceutical and medical things that can help, that are, I feel, maybe just more temporary fixes. They're band-aid fixes, but
yeah.
to really get to the root of the problem and be able to, get to the other side so that you can live a life that you're free of that, those paralyzing feelings is, I
Mm.
mean, it's what, that's what you're here to help with. So it's so cool.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you know, for any of you really suffering with anxiety right now, this is a really intense time of the year. A lot of people deal with depression and anxiety. And so just know that you're not alone. You know, a lot of people are experiencing that intensity right now because the holidays brings up stuff.
Yes, being around family, or not being around family. And
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
with, last year, how things went last year and continued into this year, and of us kind of like trying to, pretend like going back to normal as if, nothing had happened. It can be very confusing to our systems of not really understanding the PTSD like that we experienced last year, and the um, the fear that has been built by the media, by our own just outlook on like having to stay home all the time and
Mm,
separated from our loved ones, and the isolation, and how we've grown accustomed to that style just within the last year. And now it's like I see myself even like fearing or just not like wanting to engage in the same things that I used to, and kind of having to take the time to really understand why, and
mm,
realizing that that's okay. And that like it's going to take a little time for me to like recalibrate
mm.
to where I'm going, to what's happening, to where we're going as a civilization too.
Absolutely. I love that you said that because, we are shifting rapidly, like our whole reality on this planet. And that can be scary because I think the anxiety that comes from that for a lot of people is that there's not the old reference points, right? We used to have the old reference points, like, for example, going to the gym every day or going to concerts or being around people or whatever. Our reference points have changed in how we interact and create.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're even, we're having to create new ones too, because the old ones just weren't working.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
So,
this.
yeah, exactly. So, what's your favorite thing about the work that you do?
Yeah, you know, there are so many things I love about it, but I would have to say, there's a relationship component to what I do, because I work a lot with the body and I teach people how to get into their body. And when I see women do that, it really heals their sexuality. I like doing the sexual work with women as well, like helping them release their sexual trauma, and get into their feminine center. And when I see that happen, it's amazing what happens in their relationships, whether they're single or dating or married. And I've actually helped save marriages that way and, help women get out of abusive relationships. I've helped them get into healthy relationships. And I think that's the one thing that just makes my heart flutter is knowing that I'm creating inspiration for people to have healthier relationships and connections, that's not based on anxiety or the past or what was. It's based on what they want, what they desire, what they want to create in their life. And that's hard, if you're a survivor of trauma, it's not easy, but I'm a survivor of trauma and it's like I'm so grateful that I've done the work because now I can have healthy relationships and friendships and connections. So I'd have to say, yeah, that's my favorite part.
Yeah. And it's like unfortunately, so many of us have experienced sexual trauma, or, versions of that, whatever that looks
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
on different levels, and not really even understanding how it affects us,
Mm.
not taking the time to understand how it affects us, because of the language that, we've been as a society kind of told, or under how we understand things as a collective. But I think, we're moving in that direction of realizing, of waking up, of sharing our stories, and
Yeah.
really coming to this place where it's okay to talk about these things, and and look at them, because it is really uncomfortable, but we need to do uncomfortable things in order to change, in order to evolve. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There are so many men and women that have experienced sexual trauma. And it's like, I think as a collective, we are saying there's not shame in it. It's not your fault. Let's heal it and let's talk about it. And then my hope is that by doing that more and more, we prevent it happening to more children and more people in the future.
Yeah. Breaking the chain. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you feel like is your least favorite thing about the work that you do?
Great question. Well, it's funny, like I'm a coach and I always tell people when they want to work with me that I'm not a licensed psychologist, although I have had clients that are psychologists and, I do a lot of very psychological work, but the tricky thing is having people come to me and think that I'm just going to fix their problems, like, that I'm going to be this magical psychotherapist or something for them, right? And that it's going to go away all immediately. Now, there are miraculous moments where things are healed spontaneously. I've seen it happen in people's bodies, and I mean, amazing stuff, but it often takes time. And I tell people, like, you have got to be committed to the long haul when you work with me. It's going to be, I always start 3 months with people, and then sometimes I'll go years with people because there are just so many things. So the challenge is like helping people realize it's not always a quick fix, and helping them through the moments when they want it to be a quick fix and they're like not getting that right away. And it's challenging, sometimes, but I'm here to coach. I'm not here to fix. That's one of the things that I really believe in this work is like I'm not really doing the healing, I'm just facilitating, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. And holding the space and helping them
yeah,
stay present with what is while understanding, what can be.
absolutely. Yeah, holding space is so important as a coach, as a healer, you know.
Yeah. So I'm curious about some of those spontaneous healings. Like, can you give us an example?
Oh yeah. So let's see. Well, one of my clients who I've worked with for quite some time, she in the beginning, I also do access bars, which is like a hands-on healing technique, and I integrate a lot of my other tools on the table with people. And she came in and she had this weird lump on her throat that she had gone to the doctor for, and the doctor was like, I don't know what that is, but we got to monitor it and do all these tests. And of course, she's thinking it's cancer, right? So I just said, well, let's see what happens on the table. And within an hour and a half, she got up off the table and the lump was totally gone. And it was like, oh, it was so amazing that feeling, And she was like, I can't believe that. And I was like, well, we just had so much stuff to clear out of your throat chakra. Like her throat chakra was all tangled up with all kinds of trauma and energy and stuff. And we just pulled it out and her body healed, which was amazing in 90 minutes.
That was the first time working with her?
That was, I think, like the second or third time, but we hadn't worked on her neck. So it just, sometimes with the body, what's cool is it really wants to heal. So sometimes it just needs a direct connection like that, where it's like, just work directly on this part, you know? And I've had women heal, like I've healed migraines in one session and like skin rashes, digestive issues, constipation, stuff like that, because it's all energy and the energy is just stuck. And so I work with the energy, but I also work with the body and what the body is trying to tell us. Because if the body is having an issue and we're not listening to it, we're just covering it up with medications, we're, it might not be hearing what the body really wants.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the body has a whole intelligence of its own.
It has its own reality. Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, so how would you, as far as like your business and your life, and how would you define success?
That's a really great question. Yeah, I mean, isn't it funny how in our society we a lot of times measure success and how many clients we have or how much money we're making every year and or how big our cars are or whatever, right? I measure success in joy. Like that's really my number one. And it's because I lived so much of my life in depression and anxiety until I learned how to heal it. So it's like I just don't want to waste any time not like being depressed, anymore because I have the tools. So joy is my success. And if I make it through the day and I have my joyful experiences, I feel like it's $1 million, it's amazing. And the cool thing about joy too, that I believe is that money follows joy. And so it's like if I'm more joyful, more money comes to me. So I'm quote unquote more financially successful, but it all comes from the joy first.
Yep. And it sounds so counterintuitive too, especially because we're trained to believe that like you have to work hard to make
Hmm.
money and struggle and all of these things. And
Yeah.
it's actually quite the opposite, the energy of it really. And what I
Yeah.
found for myself too is that when I embody that energy of joy and play, the
Mm.
things that are very authentically me to what my purpose is here on this
Yeah.
life in this lifetime, then I, everything else falls into place. It's almost like when I'm resisting that is when, it's everything's feeling stuck and not working.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like joy is the energy of who we are. Like if you notice kids, right? Kids are naturally in their joy until they learn not to be. But like most babies and kids are in their joy and they just flow through life. They might fall down and scrape their knee, but they'll get back up and laugh and go play and eat jello or something. Like it's just they live for joy, I feel like.
Yeah. Yep. Just want to embody that even more every day, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And remember that. We get to remember that. Like that's our natural state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I just want to go like find some jello right now. Like I haven't had jello in so long.
I know, me neither. That sounds good, actually.
Just like shake it.
Yeah, I love it so much. And I think, it's like there's even now scientific studies showing that the more happy and joyful we are, the more productive we are, and the more money we make. So it's like, again, it's science is now picking up on what we already know intuitively that money follows joy.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about it as if, I'm waking up in the morning and if I'm excited about what I have planned for the day, I'm going to want to get up. I'm going to have the energy to like get out of bed and get to work or, go do that thing, take action. And if
Absolutely.
I am like just angry or mad or, kind of just like frustrated with what's going on, I don't have the same energy that I would if I was showing up to something that I was excited about or joy.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what do you have any advice that you would give to someone that is wanting to enter like a field similar to yours of coaching or energy healing, wanting to create a career around that?
Specific advice. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, here's the deal. This is like the real that I like to tell people is that a lot of times we go into this type of, coaching and healing because we have our own issues, right? We have our own stuff. That's, I would say, how most people get into this work. And the thing is that a lot of times I see healers get the narcissistic thing happen when they reach a certain level and then they start healing and coaching and they think, oh, I'm perfect. I don't need to keep learning, right? And I see that a lot. I've run into those people in the healing and the coaching world and they think they're it. And it's like the biggest thing that happens with this work is that you have to keep yourself humble like all the time. Because the moment that we put ourselves above anybody, we are actually lowering our vibration. We're stepping into the ego and we're not connected to our higher self. We're not connected to our spiritual self. So my advice is if you're looking to be like a coach or a healer, just know that you're going to have to constantly work on yourself. And it does get easier. It doesn't have to be bad. It does get easier, but you got to maintain yourself. Like I get healing at least twice a month, every month, you know, and that's really key for me to being a good healer and a good coach is that my emotions are clear, my mind is clear. I use all of the tools that I teach my clients, because I gotta stay clear so I can be a good coach for them, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is like if you're going to get into this career too, think about how you're going to step up your self-care and who are you going to lean on? Because people are going to come to you with some of their most darkest shit. And sometimes that's hard, right? And so it's like you need to make sure you have a coach, you have a healer, you have a support system so that you don't get burnt out. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people in my field is they just get burnt out because they don't have the support that they need, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot to take on everyone else's problems. Um, and not, and going back to your point of like kind of that the guru type syndrome where I
Right.
think some people have this idea and they get to this certain place where they feel like this guru and then it's it's not centered in spirit and like truth anymore.
Yeah.
And that can be very ugly. um,
Yeah.
so
Unfortunately, there are a lot of really less than I really get to know them and really feel into it and see if it feels right for you, you know? So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this discussion today. It's been such a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you.
You're such a wealth of wisdom, and definitely anyone can reach out to Fiona if they have any questions about more about what she does or booking a session. She is available. And yeah, where can they find you besides Instagram?
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, although I'm not on Facebook as much anymore. But my website is www.coachfionarose.com. And you can actually look at my bio and get my website link there too. I'm hosting actually a online belly dance workshop in January. So you can join from anywhere in the world, which is fun. And I'm really excited because I took a little break from teaching belly dancing, but this will be a great intro class, a workshop to anybody who's never done belly dancing before or maybe wants to take a refresher. So you can find that in my bio as well. And yeah, I'm going to be launching a whole bunch of new courses and programs and stuff in the
Great.
coming year. So feel free to connect with me. I'm excited to create more.
Yay. Get those playful juices, joyful juices going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just have to say that's what I love about the belly dancing is that every time I see a woman get into her body and move her hips, it's some magic happens. It's unexplainable. You just have to feel it, but there's magic there that is in the sacral chakra, you know.
Yep.
It gets awakened.
Love that. All right. Well, I hope
Yay.
you have a great rest of your day. See you later.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.